Three wheels on my wagon. Wow, well what a wonderful evening, a beautiful evening here on the banks of the River Thames in front of Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. What a month we've had, taking trips, thanks to the Youth and Community Access Fund of the Unboxed 2022 Festival, which came to an end last week, sadly, in Weston-super-Mare, the last night of Sea Monster. We had the most fantastic clip tonight on the BBC 6 o'clock news, Points West. Some of our footage in here, but I'm sure you'll enjoy this. Check this out.
Organisers of the Sea Monster say 500,000 people visited the attraction on Weston-super-Mare's seafront. After delays getting it ready, the repurposed North Sea gas rig was open to the public for 2 months before closing its doors on Sunday. Parts have already been removed, although a petition to keep it in place for longer has this afternoon been taken to Parliament.
I think it's disgusting they're getting rid of it. It's an attraction. There's thousands of people come to see it. It's bringing people into Weston. What's the matter? What are they thinking?
So we've just visited Sea Monster, haven't we? And I actually only found out about it last week, and I'm amazed to find that it's cost reputed 24 million to put it together.
Having seen this on BBC television earlier in the year, I live on the East Coast. I've come all the way here to see this fantastic Sea Monster. What a great piece of artwork. And with the support of the MP, could it not be kept till October 2023?
Yeah, we visited the Sea Monster this morning and we thought it was an amazing experience, and I'm so disgusted that somebody has decided to pull it down. Please leave it up. We're all enjoying it so much. You only have to look at the queues of people that are trying to get in.
Why take it? Why disassemble it tomorrow? Why break it up? Why not keep it here for the rest of the year until something else is arranged to go there? There's a lot of money that's cost to have that. It's brilliant.
This is our petition for Michelle Donnellan, the Culture Minister here at the Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport in London, to save Sea Monster. A stay of execution for this fantastic art project that could be a beacon for the creativity revolution that our children, our communities and our country so desperately need. I'm going to hand it in now. Well, we were over the moon with that fantastic clip there. And just before that, we were on BBC Radio Somerset and BBC Radio Bristol as well. BBC local radio making a difference, not just making a difference themselves, but giving agency to people like me, activists, whatever you want to call us, doing what we can to make the world a better place. As Billy Bragg said, if you want to make the weather, then you've got to be prepared to take the blame when dark clouds fill the sky and it starts to rain. We got busted by the police earlier, you can't make it up. Obviously driving around Westminster, driving around Parliament Square with a big picture of an oar rig on the side is not the best look at the moment. But no, it's been an absolutely fantastic week, month, travelling down to see Sea Monster. And we've been blown away by the support for our petition. And later, after the next piece, we're going to actually project the signatures and the comments that people have poured in, been absolutely pouring in onto our petition page. We're going to project them on to the Houses of Parliament later on. So if you haven't signed the petition, do that now and you might see yourself up there later on. But first we want to have a little premiere of a film that we've made on request actually for the Charity Film Awards, the Smiley Charity Film Awards. We entered last year with the fantastic film that Chris Sullivan and Charlie Marbles made for us, WAG Films Inc. We Are All Artists. But this year we want to do something a little bit differently. We wanted to start a series of films called Steamco Stories. Films about how the work that we do, working with communities, working with teachers, working with parents, working with local businesses, working with creative carers, people who care about creativity, about children, and about all our futures. This film was inspired by a moment I had, well, just a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to say any more. I think we'll run the film.
So you inspired me because all these things you're doing just makes people just want to do it.
And what do you want to do?
Well, to be honest, I really want to be a dancer because I've been dancing ever since I was 6 months.
I met Teo at a school recently in Tilbury on the Trailblazer project, which is funded with Arts Council and lottery funding by the Royal Opera House. And Teo's just like so many children across the country who have a dream. He reminded me of that TED talk by Sir Ken Robinson that changed my life. And if you haven't seen it, stop this video right now and go and watch it.
He turned to her mother and he said, "You know, Mrs. Lynn, Gillian isn't sick, she's a dancer. Take her to a dance school."
In the film, Sir Ken talks about Gillian Lynn, one of the world's most famous dancers, choreographers who made millions from Cats and Phantom of the Opera with Andrew Lloyd Webber. And 12 years ago, I started Steamco, a non-profit community enterprise, to inspire children with creativity and to connect communities with their schools, because I believe the talent to do this is latent in communities across the country. Back in January, I launched an appeal in John O'Groats in Scotland to raise £1 million to inspire 1 million kids by putting up to 22 of our little pop-up day art trucks on the road across the country with Steamsters, people like me, creative carers who care about creativity, about children, and all our futures. In March, my mother was taken very ill, and we got her home from hospital on the Saturday, and she'd been given a prognosis of 3 months to live. The district nurse came in to see her and said, "Mrs. Causton, I know you. I've got your photo with my 2 daughters on the fridge from 20, 30 years ago, when you used to run an arts and crafts summer play scheme with your husband." On the Sunday, a carer came in, Siobhan, who said, "Mrs. Causton, do you remember me?" She held my mother's hand and she said, "You taught me sewing on that summer play scheme." And I realised then that the work that I do with people and communities across the country with Steamco was part of my mother's legacy. And I went into a local school in Shropshire on the Monday with the support of BBC Radio Shropshire and launched the appeal in Shropshire to get one of these trucks on the road in my home county. I showed Mum the film that night, we listened to the radio interview, and I told Mum about my dream to raise that money. And sadly, she passed away the next day. I was blown away when somebody offered a match funding pledge, £50,000, if I could raise £50,000, and we did. And at the start of summer, we bought this camper van, the Starship 22, which we travel all over the country with. We went to fetes and festivals doing pop-up events, like we did this summer here in this fantastic grass amphitheatre here in the Cotswolds. And we've got a green screen studio in the back from which we can live stream events. This year, the government had £120 million for a national festival of creativity. And part of that, they put an oil rig on the beach in Weston-super-Mare and called it Sea Monster. It was absolutely fantastic. We got a grant to take community trips from Coventry to Cardiff, from Notting Hill to Newport. And everybody fell in love with Sea Monster and asked us to start a petition to save it. And we're in the middle of doing that as I speak. We see Sea Monster as a beacon for the creativity revolution our children, our communities and our country so desperately still needs, even after the Unbox Festival. But what chance getting the funding to do that? Well, I always think of something that somebody said at one of our conference events.
Churchill said an interesting thing in the Second World War. Churchill gathered the cabinet around him during the war. He said, "Do we need to raise more funds for tanks and planes and ammunition?" And one of the ministers turned to him and said, "We could cut the arts grant." And there was a pause, a moment's silence, and Churchill turned to him and he said, "Well, what's it all for then?"
And if you need convincing about the importance of the arts and what the arts have done for us and could do for children like Teo, our communities and our country, be sure to get a copy of this essay that Michael Rosen wrote recently about what the arts have done for us and could still do. So my appeal to you today is, can you spare £1? Can you match fund £50,000 to help us launch this creativity revolution? I like to think, and I say, that we're helping children aim not just high, but higher than high, higher than my high vis. But little Teo, he had a lovely way of describing his ambition, his dream, and where he wants to go in life.
It's just there's some people in my mind that just made me, I don't know, aspirational.
Well, we didn't do any dancing today, so why did you think it was good today?
It's because that, like, there's always this feeling whenever you like watch someone do something, you just feel like that's your new passion, and like you want to continue that road, because there's always a road not awesome and a road awesome, and I really want to take the road awesome, not awesome. And obviously I know everybody wants to be awesome, not awesome.
Just blown away by that. What a fantastically inspiring, articulate, ambitious, hard-working young man. Credit to him, credit to his mum who's given us permission to use that clip, and also credit to the school. They're part of the Gateway Learning community down there in Tilbury. As we said there, that whole project was made possible by the Trailblazer project, which is a project led and run by the Royal Opera House Bridge out of Tilbury, funded by the Arts Council England and the National Lottery. So if you've ever bought a lottery ticket, you're funding projects like that and many, many more across the country. Tragically, Arts Council funding in London particularly has been cut by £50 million this year and redistributed across the country. As the art criminal Susan Coles up there in the northeast would say, we need more art, not less. So that's what we need to be pushing for. As Churchill said there, you know, we really do need to be prioritising art and culture funding, because that's what makes life worth living. It's what makes us human. Now, I've got to say, I could not have done this last week or so without the incredible assistance of Benji here. Benji came down to see Sea Monster with us on the Coventry ship 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I asked her down to Weston-super-Mare to help me out last weekend for Saturday night. And we've been together for about a week now, Benji, haven't we?
Oh my God, yeah. Sleeping in the same quarters, not in the same bed.
How's it been for you?
Oh, it's been amazing. You only snored once.
So Benji, tell everybody about you and what you do on the planet.
Well, I sadly lost my mum, as did Nick, when we had the beast from the east, that wintry weather. There was a bit of negligence, well, a lot of negligence at the hospital of my mum's passing. But afterwards, I tried to get back on my feet during COVID. I was with City of Culture doing the leadership programme. I felt they were being very slow.
That's Coventry City of Culture, isn't it?
Yeah. And they were being very slow. So I decided to create my own team of 20 and counting. And so we're going to be putting on some stuff at the South Bank and around the UK. I'm also on the space with the Warwick Arts Committee and also Arts and Homelessness International as an associate and leadership.
So you're an activist in a number of areas. What are the kind of core areas that you...
Well, I do fashion design. I make huge costumes, but also we did a Daniel Lismore Memorial Ball with also Boy George was there, so it was such an amazing event. But we first did House of Craft, which was around climate change and how we can reuse items of clothing and put them all together. But my trousers that I created has crisp packets in because I felt like we don't use enough of those.
That's why you've been saving all the crisp packets on the
Yes,
tour bus.
yeah, it is.
So really, I mean, your activism is around sort of homelessness. You do some LGBTQ work around Coventry Pride as well, don't you? And I mean, where does your story start in terms of your lived experience?
My story started when I was about 6, 7. I kept being like sexually abused by different people, and also I had experiences of bullying to the point it was like I could have ended up dead. So I saw that the teachers would be very negative about me as a person, and also the kids were so negative. I felt like I wouldn't have a life away from all that negativity. But when my mum passed away sadly, she taught me morals, understanding, and being able to help people. She saved like 4 people's lives from committing suicide, which it's just like, it really touches me to think that she managed to save people's lives, but it's a thankless task because not a lot of people know about it. So it's just, I've developed that collecting information and sending it on to other people. And one of my friends, she's recently wrote a book. It's on Amazon. It's called Autism and Me, and I helped her put that book together, and I'm really proud of it because I get her saying the book as well. And also I'm hoping to help her with her second book so we can put it in stores around globally again.
Wow, well, that's a blow-away story.
And there's
Thank
a
you
bit
for
more
sharing that.
store.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Benji. Let's do it again, shall we? Are we up for some more of this stuff?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, nice formal handshake, team hug. Thanks. Wow, what a legend, and this is what this is all about. This is how art connects, Sea Monster connects, and I desperately hope that we do manage to save it, but already it's been spawning. It's been seen in school playgrounds across the country, from Birmingham to Liverpool to Tilbury, and maybe in a school near you if you help us. So I hope you will help us. Thanks for checking this out tonight.
All right.
So what do you think of that today, Moan?
Absolutely brilliant. Wonderful day out. And Nick done a wonderful job. And I hope he keeps a good work up. And I'd like to see more people getting involved with it.
And what did you think of Sea Monster, what we saw up there, that oil rig and everything?
Brilliant.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Pity they weren't leaving it there a bit longer, you know. But it was very interesting.
What you used to do for a living years ago?
I worked on the steam trains for 8 years.
It's a shame when they cut all those engines up
They
in
did
Barry.
in Newport. They cut over 300 not over. They burnt them all up. All the ones are by Barry and all. They cut all them up.
It's almost ironic because they're just about to cut up the Sea Monster as well. How do you feel about the Sea Monster being cut up like those?
No,
I
don't think they should cut it up.
No. Anyway,
but I would have liked them to keep that there longer.
Yeah.
For the money it cost.
So today we're going to Weston-super-Mare to launch the Save the Sea Monster campaign. One question for everybody on this bus, everybody from the Salvation Army of Newport. Are you with me today, people? Yes! I can't hear you. Are you with me? Mission to save the Sea Monster! And if we save it from Newham Weston, how about getting towed to Barry for everybody in Wales as well? I think that's a yes! So what we're going to do now is we're going to show the petition. We have been blown away by the responses to the petition, and I'm going to end this sequence now. I'm not going to sit here chatting all night. I'm going to end this sequence by projecting onto the Houses of Parliament the names and the comments of all the people who've signed our petition already. And I can't stress enough that this is an ongoing petition. We're going to keep this going. So just because we've done the petition today and presented something to Michelle Donelan, the Culture Minister here in Parliament Square, we hope you'll sign up, put your name in, put your comment, and talk to us about what something like Sea Monster means to you. And if you agree with us that Sea Monster could be that beacon for the creativity revolution that our children, our communities, and our country so desperately need. I mean, Joe Lycett's getting a bit of stick for shredding £10,000. The government have just gone and done a bit of a KLF. They only burnt $1 million.
Leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
Nick's in Weston-super-Mare. Nick, what would you like to say?
Hello, James. You've said it a million times. It's, as ever, it's all about caring, and it's a sad day when caring is written off as virtue signalling. I'm sat in a camper van on a wet and windy Weston-super-Mare, believe it or not. I mean, it's all very well, rich, famous people. I mean, they've got agency by being rich and famous, but we've got to convince ordinary people they've got a bit as well. And are you old enough to know Billy Bragg?
Yeah, of course, I know him. He's been on Full Disclosure, my podcast series.
So he wrote a song, if you want to make the weather, then you've got to be prepared to take the blame. When dark clouds fill the sky and it starts to rain and folk complain, you know, you can't be an activist without getting a bit of stick, you know?
Yeah, and the criticism that works best, because I think it speaks to something human. It works best, just that slight sense that if you can't do everything, you shouldn't do anything. Well, what's the point of me doing my recycling? Have you seen what they're doing in China? It excuses us from the effort of doing something we know to be right.
Absolutely. The government have just as good as burnt £10 million down here on the beach in Weston-super-Mare. They've dragged an old rig up onto the beach. They've put plants on it, they've got solar panels and windmills on it, and they've turned it into an artwork all about the environment, about weather, about reuse. And after spending £10 million on it or more, they're ripping it out today because it's been up for 8 weeks and they're saying it's done its job. And we've brought bus trips from across the country, from Cardiff to Coventry, from Notting Hill to Newport, to see it, pensioners from the Salvation Army there, and they all said one thing: they don't want Sea Monster to be ripped up, and they asked us to sign a petition. So that's what we're doing, and this Friday we're going to take the petition into Parliament to present it to the Department of Culture. We see it as a beacon for the creativity revolution that our children, our communities and our country still so desperately need, even after the government's £120 million Unbox 2022 festival. I mean, Joe Lycett's getting a bit of stick for